All right, welcome everybody. We are continuing the halachas of Pas Haba B'Kislev. So we were saying yesterday, just to review a little bit of what we were saying yesterday, and that is that Pas Haba B'Kislev is one of the types of breads that are lechem she'eina gomer. That means that they are considered bread by Torah law. You have to separate challah from them if you make challah. If you make enough dough. But because they're not usual to eat as the main part of a meal, the Chachamim said not to say hamoitzi and bench on them, but rather to say mezonos and ala michya on them. The rule is, by the way, whenever you say mezonos, you don't wash. Whenever you say hamoitzi, you wash. Those go together. Because the whole idea of washing was established by the Chachamim for the main meal, which is bread. Anyway, the point is we did also say yesterday that there's another type of lechem she'eina gomer, which is two other types. We said is lachmonius and troiknin, which are breads that are made with a thin batter. Some are thicker and the way they're made, some are thinner. Different opinions. Some said that if it's a very thin batter and very runny dough, no matter how much, if it's thin, big thin, and a thin batter, no matter how much you eat, you're going to make mezonos. Others said if it's very thin and big thin, it still could be hamotzi depending on how much you eat. And if it's baked thick, some say in order to be mezonos, it has to be a very thin batter. We don't know exactly how thin that is. So that's a bit of an unclear discussion. The more practical one for us is what we call Pas Haba B'Kislev. Pas Haba B'Kislev, we were saying yesterday, has three opinions as to what it is. First opinion is out of the Rambam, which is that it is a bread that is made with other liquids instead of water, or at least a majority of other liquids instead of water, in the dough. And because of this, people eat it more like a snack than like a regular bread. And there's actually machlokes between the Mechaber and the Ramah about this, how much of other it has to be. According to the Mechaber, it's just enough that it should be treated like a snack bread. There's no specific amount. So meaning to say it has to have a recognizable taste. According to the Ramah, it has to be 51%. And we said it could be that the Ramah means in additional to recognizable taste, it also has to have a 51%, or some say no, as long as 51%. In any case, we said that that's true whether the liquids are sweet or savory, whether they're fruit juice, honey, could be eggs, could be oil, could be a combination, by the way. Coconut water, yeah, I think so. I don't see why not. That's a fruit juice. Could be a combination. So if you have in the cake batter, you have eggs, oil, and sugar, which dissolves, that all counts against the amount of water. Understand? To make for a mezonos kind of situation. Then you have the opinion of Rabbeinu Hanan. Rabbeinu Hanan says that it's talking about a bread with a pocket. And we had different definitions of the pocket, according to the Alter Rebbe and the Shulchan Aruch, and according to the Alter Rebbe and the Seder. Alter Rebbe and the Shulchan Aruch said that it has to be enough of a pocket so that people don't eat it as a regular bread. According to the Alter Rebbe, it has to be so much of a pocket that becomes the main thing in this cake. And that the dough is there only secondarily to help the taste, but really the main thing is for the pleasure. In any case, the Alter Rebbe says that opinion of Pas Haba B'Kislev, at least the way he defines it here, is mezonos according to all opinions. Even a Baal Nefesh, a person who is strict, can consider that mezonos. He doesn't have to have it during a meal, and so on. However, the Alter Rebbe did say that the Rambam's definition of Pas Haba B'Kislev is not universally accepted, and therefore Baal Nefesh, a person who is careful, will only eat it during a meal. of bread. So the בן שלי הולך לבוש גארדנס, הוא מוכר עוגיות בשביל ה-graduation trip. $4 for 8 cookies. So בקיצר, צריך להיות.
סגור, אי אפשר לפתוח עם הכל, זה מישהו היה...
הוא צריך את הסגור.
ככה זה היה?
לא, אני סגרתי.
אתה סגרת? כן, ברוך השם. ברוך השם.
ברוך השם. Okay, so...
This is the only type of doubtful notes.
So, the in Shulchan Aruch, when the Alter Rebbe gives the definition of passable bekisnin, plastic law. בסדר, לא צריך, לא צריך. לא צריך. מה אם זה בסדר? לא צריך. תודה. אוקיי. תודה. Okay, the point is that in the Shulchan Aruch, when the Alter Rebbe defines passable bekisnin of Rabbi Hananel's way in a more expansive way, meaning to say just that the filling is there so people don't eat it as a regular bread, there he says that's also a machlokes. You understand? He doesn't say everybody agrees to that one. Here where he defines it as so much of a filling that people eat it only for pleasure, that he says everybody agrees with. You understand what I'm saying? So this definition of passable bekisnin, this way we're defining it is agreed. But that way could be that the Alter Rebbe holds that's a way, but that's not a way that everybody agrees with. You know what I'm saying? Here he doesn't even bring it down.
I'm saying, you mentioned, I think, Zonos Gomorrah.
Zonos Gomer is something else.
I know, but so this is the only thing that falls into the Zonos that's not Zonos Gomorrah. I mean, all these types of...
These types of breads, lachmonius, truknin, passable bekisnin, however we define passable bekisnin, these three are mezonos she'ein gomer. Mezonos she'ein gomer, lechem she'ein gomer, however you want to say it. They are the types that could either be mezonos or hamoitzi. Bread is hamoitzi, and porridge is mezonos. You know what I'm saying? Semolina, whatever it's called, pasta. But these are the ones that could be mezonos or hamoitzi, depending on how much you eat and so on. So, now I want to say that there is a third opinion. Third opinion is that of Rabbeinu Hai Goin. Opinion of Hai Goin, which is brought in the Aruch, and then brought in the Bis Yosef, and brought in the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch, and in the Mishnah Berurah, and by pretty much all the other poskim, is that it's something called a pretzel. Pretzel. It's a dough that is baked so that it's dry and brittle. And when you bite it, it's like dry. And the word kisnin, we said yesterday, is the translation of dry. Crackers, yeah, crackers. Same thing. So, the Badei HaShulchan, who's a Avraham Chaim now, who is a big source of halacha for Chabad Hasidim, because he wrote the Ketzos HaShulchan, which follows Alter Rebbe's Shitas and so on. But he points out that the Alter Rebbe in the Seder Birkos HaNehenin leaves out this opinion completely. Doesn't say it, doesn't mention it. So he says, the Alter Rebbe changed his mind. In the Shulchan Aruch, he was happy with that opinion, and he included it. Came time to write the Seder, he reconsidered it, and he did not consider it mezonos. And based on that, he says, if you want to eat a pretzel, you have to wash sit down, say Moitzi, challah, if it's Shabbos, make sure you have lechem mishnah, 2 pretzels, and benching if you eat a kazayas.
But pretzels, I mean, there's the bag of bread, there's the hash, the pretzel, and there's the big pretzel,
I'm not talking about big pretzels. Small crackers,
cracker type of pretzel.
all those
Hash.
things. I'm not, pretzels is an example. I mean, the same thing with crackers. Cracker, all those foods. Unless it has other liquids in the dough, that's something else. Only thing that Rabbi Chaim Noah gives you a little bit of a leeway on is, he says, if the cracker or the pretzel or whatever other dry type of bread, so to speak, is baked with some spice, which gives it a bit of a different flavor. Let's say it has rosemary extract. Let's say it has sesame on it. Let's say it has garlic on the crackers that have garlic on them. So then, since the Beis Yosef says that it could be possible with kisnin, even with a mixture of another liquid that changes the flavor but is less than 50%. Now Ashkenazim don't paskin like him, but together with the opinion of a high going that says pretzels are mezainis anyway, so those two together will let it be mezainis. So basically, if you have a pretzel dipped in sesame seeds, it will be mezainis. But if you have stam a pretzel with salt, it should be hamoitzi, according to the Badei HaShulchan, according to the Ktsos HaShulchan. And I even heard that there are Landau's pretzels in Bnei Brak, if they are made only with flour and water and salt, they say brachasei hamoitzi. The bracha is hamoitzi. Again.
You wash or?
No, I'm not finished. This is not only pretzels, it's crackers, any of those things. If the dough is made with water, flour and water, even though it's dry, he holds its hamoitzi. Regardless of quantity, like a piece of bread. You eat a piece of bread, no matter how much you eat, you have to say hamoitzi. You have to wash and say hamoitzi. You don't have to bench unless you're a kazayas. You have to wash and say hamoitzi. Now, why would the Alter Rebbe change his mind from the Shulchan Aruch to the Seder? What's the reason for that? This is something we have to understand. Rav Hai Goyen says it. The Beis Yosef brings it down. Nobody argues on it. I mean, the Rambam and Ben Hanan will argue on it because they hold to a different definition of it. But nobody says that there's anything wrong with it. Everybody says because of a doubt, you say mazanas on all of them. So why should the Alter Rebbe back out of this opinion all of a sudden? We're discussing why the Alter Rebbe leaves out Rav Hai Goyen's opinion in the Seder Birkos HaNehenin. He completely leaves it out. Doesn't mention the concept of kochenization, of dry crackers or pretzels. Thank you very much. Thank you.
אני לא הרמתי את הקפה ככה שיוצא יותר טוב.
For sale, $4. Trip to Busch Gardens, my son's class.
אני אקנה הראשון של הילד.
Thank you very much.
2, 3, 4.
Parav. Pasta Cyril and Parav. Thank you very much. The batter is not homemade, but the cookies are homemade. They're baked.
You're selling these next week too?
As soon as they sell out, they're gone.
I like two.
I
don't mind not taking it.
You can pay me back. You can pay me back, but I'm not going to have next one.
אני אתן לו 2 ואתה תתן לי. בסדר? אתה לא חייב להחזיר לי, אבל תחזיר. 1, 2. זה בשביל צבא בשביל הילדים.
3.
אני יודע לספור.
No. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so
One day, yeah. After everybody buys, I'll say whatever.
בעזרת השם.
Shkaya,
Don't worry,
shkaya.
I'm a good share.
I'm a good share too. אתה ניתן לי ואני אתן לך.
No, maybe we shouldn't share so we can buy.
Are you gonna wash or what are you gonna do?
This is a 1 egg, 2 eggs.
That's 2 eggs.
The two eggs.
Two eggs. That's 2. That's at least 2.
2 eggs.
Rabbi, I still want to invite this whole thing.
That's true. Serious shaila.
Huh?
That's a serious shaila.
I think
That's a lot of cookies.
That's a lot of
For
cookies.
me, maybe I will have half because I took the sweet away from
These are the cookies, by the way, I'm selling today. So I know some of you are here in Florida, so if you want to whiz down over
You can
there.
order to England.
No, we don't have England anymore.
No?
England graduated.
Oh, מזל טוב.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
מזל
right, right.
טוב. יוסי.
I think it's reviewing, yeah. Hope so.
מזל טוב.
So,
אני מכבד את כבודו.
לא,
אחד.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברי.
אמן.
לא, it's Okay,
בכבוד.
so the point is, why does the Alter Rebbe, why does the Alter Rebbe leave out the opinion of Rav Hai Gaon
We'll do it later.
that dry dough that is baked till it's dry, like a cracker or a pretzel, is considered? That's what pasta baba kisnim is. That's the definition of pasta baba kisnim. Crunchy. So he leaves it out.
So he's saying,
He didn't forget. I mean, he wrote it himself in the Shulchan Aruch. So why would he change his mind? The Baal Shulchan says he changes his mind. Doesn't hold to it. But why? I mean, based on what? Amen. So I have a little chiddush that I heard from Chaim Shalom Deitch, my Rosh Kollel in Yerushalayim, who says that we have to remember that the Seder Birkos HaNehenin is a sefer that is written for halacha l'maisa for the Jews of Russia.
They didn't have crackers.
They did not have crackers.
Why?
That's correct. Because that whole style.
No, I don't want. You want popcorn?
I don't want no.
No. This is for tomorrow for the war.
No rainbows and no crackers.
My stickers over there.
No rainbows and no crackers. Exactly. The whole idea of these.
We didn't know that this was going to get out. It
It's not a question of knowing. He wasn't writing it for everybody. He was writing it for that group.
was a contrast to the state.
It was like the Luach Birkos HaNehenin, which was put up in shuls, in the back of shuls. It was done, so it's bekitzer. So it was specifically done so that it would be able to include the most practical things. And like, for example, we pointed out, he left out a pre-gafna, left out mechiasa. Okay, left out mechiasa.
Why didn't they have crackers?
Oh, so the way it worked, the way that whole thing was a Middle Eastern food. It was a Middle Eastern type of food. Crackers, bagela. You know what's called a bagela?
That,
Exactly. That originated from the Middle East. That whole idea originated from the Middle East. It eventually spread. And it seems, this is just from his, not like professional research, but from his asking the Russian, people who come to kugel or whatever, it seems like in the Alter Rebbe's times, there was such a food in Russia, but it was not incorporated in the Jewish community. It was like one of these foods that never made it in to the Jewish community. So that's a possibility why the Alter Rebbe left it out. Can't say for sure. It's a
why
possibility.
does Alter Rebbe say why does the Baal Shulchan say that
I don't know. He says he didn't, he decided to pass, not like that. But I did come across
Shulchan Aruch
another.
brings that you just-
Shulchan Aruch brings it, yeah.
and all the weird baking things that were the aliens.
Apparently.
What's the name?
Teresa Truknin Lachmanias, he gives the Yiddish names. He gives the Yiddish name for them. Blintzes, Blinas. He tells you what they're called. If they had names, obviously people were eating them. So here's the thing. I came across another pshat. I came at Trikonon, he says, is blinis. That's what it's called in Yiddish. If it had a name, people ate it. Okay, but I came across another pshat, and this is from a fellow by the name of Dayan Raskin, Levi Yitzchak Raskin, who's a Chabad Rav in London.
In our life or before?
Our life, Baruch Hashem. Still a young man, relatively. So he says, it's a Chiddush. He says, Sfardim make mazonos on matzah.
Yes.
Year round. Why? Because matzah is a dry cracker. It's just a big dry cracker. So it's mazonos like all other crackers. Ashkenazim say hamoitzi on matzah because they consider that since on Pesach that is our bread, so we consider it like bread even during the year.
So Sfardim consider matzah pas haba b'kisnin?
Absolutely. It's Rav Hai Goin's definition of pas haba b'kisnin. A matzah is a cracker, and according to Rav Hai Goin, it's pas haba b'kisnin. Now, there's other definitions of pas haba b'kisnin, but because of the doubt, we say mazonos on all of them. So, along comes Dayan Raskin and he says, since we, Ashkenazim, at that point in history, had started eating matzah in a way of bread, that transformed that whole category of pas haba b'kisnin into bread. So it's a nice chiddush, but it would come out a big chumrah that if you're Chabad, you can't eat.
Does the Rebbe also mention it in Hilchos Lachem or whatever?
In Shulchan Aruch, he mentions it together with all the opinions.
No, Shulchan Aruch mentions not about Kisnin.
And this definition. In the Shulchan Aruch, when he goes through the
yeah. No, I'm asking in the Birkos and Nen, did he mention on Hilchos what's bread?
Matzah? He didn't discuss matzah, no. He discussed matzah.
If the Sephardim hold that matzah is pas haba b'kisnin and mazonos, so what do they do on Pesach?
On Pesach, they hold it is hamoitzi, because that's the only bread we have, so we have to consider it hamoitzi.
But how can you just flip around like that? Like, that's very inconsistent.
Well, how do we flip around between a matzah and a cracker? Somebody asked me yesterday, Emmanuel asked me, what about a small matzah? What's it called in Hebrew? Matzit? What is it called? The little ones.
Yeah, the little ones.
What are they called? Matziot, I think matziot. It's a little.
I know those are the Raskin crackers that they sell.
No, they actually look like matzah.
But it's less like
Yeah.
a side.
If it's bread, you make a bracha hamoitzi less than the gazayas too.
Wow.
So I saw in one of these forums, maybe this one here. I think it was this one, Rabbi Bodner's brachas book. So I think he says there that because they're small, people eat them as a snack food, and they're mazonos. So that's also very wishy-washy. I mean, if it's this big, it's hamoitzi. This big, it's mazonos. So where does it become hamoitzi? You know what I'm saying? Where it's like that's what you asked.
What's that principle of like eating it as a snack food that makes it mazonos? What is that?
What is that?
Yeah.
It's the definition of pas haba b'kisnin. The definition of pas haba b'kisnin is that these three foods, each according to their opinion, are eaten by people as a snack. One of those is a dry cracker. So that's why matzah should logically be mazonos, like all crackers and pretzels. But since we eat it on Pesach like a bread, so that transforms it from its usual din of a cracker and makes it into bread.
Because pas haba b'kisnin, that if you eat, like you can say hamoitzi on pas haba b'kisnin. Like, is there any issue with eating a small amount and making hamoitzi?
Absolutely, of course there is an issue.
Oh, there is an issue? But if I'm going to have a large amount, then I do have to make hamoitzi?
There's something called halacha, which is what we're learning. And in halacha, there's very little room for free choice. There's some room for free choice, but not much. So the halacha says Pasaba b'kisnan is a doubt. Hamoitzi and mezoinus. Because of the doubt, we say mezoinus. Unless you're going to eat a certain amount, then you say hamoitzi. And in some cases, it's not sure. It's not clear. Have it during the meal, and so on and so forth. But you can't just take a mezoinus. You can't just take a mezoinus food that's defined as pasaba b'kisnan and say, I want to make hamoitzi on this and make hamoitzi. If you eat a certain amount, then of course. All right. So now that I got that off my chest, I do also want to mention something else. Actually, let's learn a little bit further before I mention it. Oh yeah, no. I'll mention it now. I gave it out in the handout yesterday. Here's what it is. Here's a question. Why do we say that because of a doubt, we're going to say mezoinus? Why do we say mezoinus because of a doubt? I mean, when all is said and done,
It is covered.
mezoinus, some say, covers all foods.
Oh, really?
Mezoinus, some say, covers all foods. There are achronim that say that. Mishnah Berurah brings it down. Yeah, and especially bread, because it's mezin. And then, but
Unless a shell.
yeah, shakal, everybody says it covers everything. Everybody agrees.
Yeah, that actually raises a question. I was reading, I think, on chapter 1 near the end, it says that mazonos covers every food. What does that mean exactly?
That means, according to some opinions, if you say mezonos on any food besides water and salt, you're yotza.
Really? Huh.
According to some opinions, it's not all opinions, but there are some opinions that say that.
So that means if I accidentally said it, I'd be okay.
I'm sorry? According to those opinions, correct.
I said, according to those, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
Rabbi, if I see a bagel and I mistake said mezonot, say?
a bagel, if you said mezonos, the diavad, you don't say hamoitzi again. The diavad, you don't say hamoitzi again. I need you guys to mute yourselves. I need you guys to mute yourselves, please.
I have a question back on that. Is if there's opinion that says that mazonos covers all foods, then what happens to all the other blessings? I mean, doesn't it just kind of mevatel that? What is that?
No, it's just like shahakal, according to all opinions, covers all foods, but only if you make it directly on those foods. You're not supposed to say it unless it's the right bracha. And even if you say it, it's only if you specifically had in mind that it should go on that food. It doesn't automatically go on a food that is not the right bracha for.
So if I said mazonos on a potato, then if I had in mind that's covering the potato, that's okay.
According to those poskim, you would be yotze. That is correct.
Even though I
But
shouldn't.
Even though you shouldn't have done that. That's correct. But
Okay.
if you said mazonos on a cookie and you plan to eat the potato is not covered, according to all opinions.
You just said that mezonos would cover hamoitzi
That's some poskim say yes. Some poskim say yes. Hamoitzi covers mezonos. Not all mezonos, but pasaba b'kisnan, yes. In other words, even if it's supposed to be mezonos, even according to the opinion that this is pasaba b'kisnan for sure, right? Or let's say lachmanias, for sure, it's runny dough, it's thin, it's mezonos. But because it could be bread, some say if you say hamoitzi, you're yotza. So that's all leading up to the question. Why do we say that you say mezonos in the case of a doubt? Say hamoitzi in the case of a doubt. What's the problem? So a few answers are given to this question. So first of all, this is a bit of a chiddush. It's an interesting word, but the Maimon Mordechai says you know what? Maybe hamoitzi doesn't cover mazonos. Maybe mazonos doesn't cover hamoitzi. Maybe benching doesn't cover alamechia. Maybe alamechia doesn't cover birchas hamazon. But if you're saying alamechia, at least you're only saying one bracha levatal. You're saying benching, you're saying 3 or even 4. So therefore, we give you alamechia. Once we give you alamechia, we give you mazonos because they go together. It's a bit of a dochek, but anyway.
So Rabbi,
Exactly.
You mean if someone have a begal and then he did alamichia instead of Birkat Hamazon, or Yotze?
It's machlokes. Some say yes, some say no. Because some say yes, you can't bench because it's a safek brachot. But yeah, machlokes.
Saturday, when Mishnayos was brought up down on Matzah and Gemara, one of the brei that we used to judge the case, we used to bring 10 chachamim from the base medrash to down with them, so just in case they're wrong, so they all get the split.
No, I think that's the expression.
He just brought the story, he didn't say the lashon.
I think that's the lashon.
I was reading that.
So that we're all sharing the burden, something like that. Yeah. So actually, based on this question, the Prisha says, based on this question, we see that mazonos covers all foods, or at least hamoitzi. Let's put it that way. The Prisha says, based on this, since the halacha is that we say mazonos on these foods because of a doubt, the Prisha says we see that mazonos covers hamoitzi. He doesn't say necessarily all food. That's other achronim say that, but he says at the very least we see mazonos covers hamoitzi. Otherwise, why are you saying mazonos out of a doubt? Then we have the opinion of the Bach that Taka disagrees with this whole mahalach. He disagrees and he says, you know what? It's a doubt and you should only have it during a meal. He disagrees. Don't eat crackers and don't eat cookies and don't eat cake unless you're having a meal. Of course, that doesn't solve the problem, by the way. Why doesn't it solve the problem? The Bach says, I'm selling them 6th grade graduation trip. You know about that. $4. Discounted price. Used to be $5. So
Is the Bach in the handout at all that you're talking
yeah,
about right
it's in
now?
the handout. I'm reading from the handout. It's
Which page?
page 3.
Okay.
Shkoyach. Thank you. So the thing is, the Bach says Mazonos maybe doesn't cover hamoitzi might not cover mazonos. We don't know. It's a doubt. Don't eat these foods unless it's during a meal. But I have a problem because even during a meal, it's not so simple. Why not?
Because if it's a dessert, you have to say mazonos.
Exactly. If hamoitzi doesn't cover mazonos, and you're having it as a dessert,
once you start hamotzi on hamotzi,
who said it's covered if you're eating it as part of the meal? But if you're eating it as dessert, and it is a snack food, so it's not tuffle to the bread. Snack foods are not tuffle to bread. Only meal foods are tuffle to bread. So therefore, it could be still tuffle. Daniel, I need you to mute yourself, please. Thank you. So, graduation trip, 6th grade graduation trip. So,
You want to change? I have a change for you.
yeah, shkoyach.
Go.
So the point is, can you ask for Meyer? It's possible. Shkoyach. Al-Khanan said he would let me know.
Okay,
He wasn't
not
sure.
pray. Pray, I know.
I didn't have it.
4, not 4.
Still came to me.
Not 5.
And you pray also, I know. Pray. No, Baruch Hashem.
I'm assuming these are part of.
Michal says, let me know if we'll be Meyer tonight. I'm happy to come. Yes, Ezrat Hashem.
Oh, so we already.
Please.
Baruch Hashem.
I forgot about Michal yesterday. Michal Ben Shatrit said he could come any night.
Oh, you forgot him, Michael?
I forgot to ask him.
Oh, I figured that he couldn't come.
No, I totally forgot to ask him.
Oh, okay, let's ask him now.
I just did. He said he would come. No, he said he would come. Not two.
If we fight, not pray. We
That's
fight,
it.
not. So far we're 8.
If you eat the entire bag, you have to say motzi.
No, it's only 2 egg. 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 I can give you a little bit of mine. If I give you.
Okay, Rabbi Isai. So, how much time? It's a question. It's a question.
Isn't it as soon as you know you have to watch?
No, but he's saying maybe you can space it out so that it's not mitzvah. Space it out. Okay, so here is the answer. Here's the answer that is given. That I think the Magen Avraham gives. I'll never quote it, but it's from the Magen Avraham. Here's the thing. Even though maybe Mazonis doesn't cover Amotzi, and maybe Amotzi cover Mazonis, but conceptually, Mazonis is a more general bracha, and Amotzi is a more specific bracha. Mazonis is for satisfying foods, which are grain foods. And Hamotzi is for bread, which are part of that grain foods, but more specific. So even though we're not saying one is Moitzi the other, we're saying in theory, if we don't know where to put something is in a no man's land. It's not defined yet. If you don't know where to put something, it's better to keep it in the thing that's more general, where in theory everything would be included, exactly with which is Mazonis, rather than Hamoitzi, which is already specific. So if something is not yet given a bracha, we're going to give it the more inclusive bracha.
So
That's
on any cookies look like bread or something we're not sure.
what we're learning. What cookies?
Then
You're not sure. We're not sure. If you're not sure, you call me up and you tell me.
I mean, you're in Israel.
No, then you call somebody else. Well, I'm not talking about you don't know. I'm talking about the halacha doesn't know. If you don't know, you have to find out. You can't say Mazonis because maybe Mazonis doesn't cover Hamoitzi.
We have to find it before we eat it.
Of course. If you don't know what something is, then the general bracha that you say is shahakal. Because shahakal for sure covers everything.
That's why we don't know.
Mazonis maybe doesn't cover Hamoitzi. So shahakal is the more general bracha.
So what's this more general? Hamotzi or Mazonis?
Mazonis. Mazonis is more general. Mazonis is for all grain foods. Hamoitzi is just for bread made out of grain foods.
So Hamotzi then is a
Specialty out of Mazonis, correct? Specialty Mazonis. Now, as far as benching is concerned,
Really? Popcorn adama?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like adama.
Adama.
The change is a shape, right?
No, that's why they planted it for that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, here's how the Alter Rebbe explains Ala Michya versus Birkos Hamazon. This is all in the handout. When the Torah says V'achalta v'savata uveirach, that's similar to the word of Hamoitzi and Mazonis. When the Torah says V'achalta v'savata uveirachta, you have to say the after bracha. That after bracha has to include thank you for the food. Uverachtas Hashem, thanking Hashem. Al ha'aretz, it has to include thanking Hashem for the land of Israel. And ha'toiva, it has to include thank you for Yerushalayim. Ha'toiva is har, ha'toiva hazev alavon, it's referring to Yerushalayim.
Land of America.
No.
Food is here.
Sorry, wrong country. That's not the one. Achana cannot come.
But
Achana cannot come.
Rabbi, all the food is American. Why we said Al-Haaretz? Because it's not true.
What do you mean? We're not thanking Hashem for the land where this food came from. We're thanking Hashem for the land. He gave us the land. It is true. It's still ours.
Well, we are Kavanah, Eretz Israel.
Of course.
So how can the food is coming from America?
I didn't say that food came from that land. It's two separate things. I thank you for the food here, and I thank you for the land there. Two separate things.
Two separate things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Al haaretz she'enchalta lavotenu. Bli kesher. Okay. So you have to say those things. Now, midoraisa, you don't have to say them in 3 separate brachas. You could say them in one big bracha, which is called me'ein shalish, ala mechi. However, the Chachamim said, if you're going to eat bread, what we define as bread, which is the important food, we want you to say 3 brachas. Because it's an important food, we want it to be given its importance. So once again, when it's for sure bread, then we say, take it away from the ala mechia, which is a general thing that includes midoraisa, it's fine. If we know it's bread, take it out of that and give it the 3 brachas. But if we don't know it's bread, we're not sure, we'll leave it in the din raisa, which is that ala mechia is good enough. Okay, so we continue with halacha yud and we say, it's very quiet in the computer land. I'm not checking my phone, maybe that's the problem.
They're smelling the cookie, that's why.
Nothing on my phone either. What's going on, guys?
Nothing, we're just standing by.
All right.
Okay, if you want to hear an unrelated question, I have one that was kind of related.
Unrelated question. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it appropriate to
I
answer?
reserve the right to not answer, but go ahead.
What?
I reserve the right to not answer unrelated questions, but go ahead.
Is it appropriate to answer amen to a bracha that I hear over the phone happening live?
There's different opinions, but Lamaisa, you can do it, yeah.
But for recording, no, obviously.
No, not for recording, no.
What about Kaddish?
Same.
So if God forbid somebody passed away in Israel, and you can make a Kaddish.
Simultaneous.
No, but not that he'll count for a minion, but you can answer.
I think it's the same thing. You can't count. No, you can't count. Okay. Number 10. All of these breads, shebrachas and brei mezainis, whose bracha is brei mezainis. Here's a very practical question. If they are brought onto the table during the meal, not integral to the meal. That's a very good translation by Rabbi Dr. Shimon Cowan, the author of this translation. Shalei mach masasuda, not integral to the meal, you understand? Meaning to say, as a dessert, as opposed to a filling dish in the meal. Dahainu shaloi lechal l'shem mazon lahasbiya, meaning to say that you're not eating it for the sake of satisfaction and sustenance. Ela le'idun v'tainu bilvad. Again, Perek Shtayim Halacha Yud. You're eating it for pleasure only. Or else you're eating it at the end of the meal to lighten yourself up from the heavy food. You had heavy food during the meal, you had steak, whatever. You want to eat a light food at the end of the meal to finish it off, what we call dessert. They are not covered by the hamotzi on bread because they're not bread, right? And they're not being eaten in a way that's secondary to bread. They're being eaten as a dessert, which is snack foods, basically. Snack foods are not covered by hamotzi. But of course, you do not have to say ala michya, the fish and the shtambach, because they are covered by benching. Meaning to say that even though dessert is not covered by the bracha before, it is covered by the bracha after. We're going to get to that later, why that is, but that's a fact.
Like the wine is covered by the bracha.
Exactly, wine is the same thing.
Rebbe, I have a question.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you. Can you come from Meyer?
Can I come from Meyer? If you need me, I'll come. If you need me, I'll come.
As of now, we'll need you, but I'll let you know. Go ahead. What's your question?
So I've been to a house that the balabais, we eat the meal and everything, and then we say Birkos Hamazon, then after Birkos Hamazon, and well, my HaNehenin and Birkos Hamazon, everything, we eat dessert
Okay, on Shabbos.
He's a Sephardi.
on Shabbos.
Okay, he wants some extra brachas.
You want
Go
us
ahead.
brachot, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it Sephardi?
Yes, it is.
That's it.
I've been to Ashkenazi houses where they do it too.
They do it in Birkat Hamazon, I'm sorry, they do it on a table, they blessing on the middle of the food.
They say Birkat Hamazon.
No.
They have dessert after.
מחילה. אני חושב, when you eat, then you have the cookies, they take the cookies, בורא מילים זונות, and they eat it. After they do a motzi. They
I'm
can do
talking
that.
about
They
having
can do that,
dessert
not right.
after benching. I'm not talking about all issues. I'm talking about having dessert after benching. I've been to Ashkenazi homes where they have dessert after benching on Shabbos to have the concept of extra brachas and also for Shalshudas. In case it's a short Shabbos, maybe they won't get around to Shalshudas later. So they have in mind Shalshudas. You have to make an interruption. You have to make like an interruption and Shalshudas.
It's very clever.
I have to remember, I'm not sure if it's to separate it into two meals or to make it that it shouldn't be a bracha and tzricha. I'm saying to make that the Alan Michya shouldn't be considered bracha and tzricha by if you know you're going to do it. So that's a machlokes. So if you want to get out of that opinion, you wait 10 minutes and not wait out of it. If you, I don't know where I get that share from, but I got that share from somewhere. But you know what? I think I heard from Avdaich, if I'm not mistaken, that he said, if I'm not mistaken, he said that the whole thing of the 10 minutes is only for the suffix bracha and tzricha, but not to separate it into shalashudas. And I think his chiddush was that if you go by the opinions that you're allowed to do it just for the sake of meir brachas, so then you can also be a shalshudas without waiting. I think that was his chiddush. Yeah, go ahead.
I wash my hands, I do a motzi, I'm eating at a table, food, and I see good cookies in the side. So if I take it, I can do a mezonot or not?
That's what we're learning right now. Mamash, now we're learning it.
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, chutz mipa. Okay, now it's not so simple. What we learned until now was fine, but it's not so simple. Chutz mipa sheni lo shabachala v'chayotze boy. Besides bread that was kneaded with milk or similar things, fruit juices. Meaning to say,
Like bread pudding.
no, like cake,
Ah.
like chocolate cake. What's chocolate cake? Chocolate cake is mezainis. Why is it mezainis? Because it has more chocolate and sugar and oil and eggs than water. So therefore, because that's a doubt, because according to Rabbeinu Chananel, that is not mezainis, it's hamoitzi. Only the Rambam says mezainis. So you have a doubt. Some say it's some say the bracha is hamoitzi. And if there is bracha, it's already covered by bracha hamoitzi. It's already covered by hamoitzi. As a result of that, the suffix bracha is nahakal. When in doubt, you cannot say a bracha because it might be hamoitzi. You cannot say a bracha on it.
That's why it's better to mamachorim bench and then you do
Shomel, we're following you here. Another advantage of having dessert after benching is that you can get out of this problem. If you're having mezonos for dessert, so that could be a doubtful hamoitzi. If it falls into one of the categories of pasabah b'kisnin that not everybody agrees with, you won't be able to make mezonos because it could be it's hamoitzi and it's already covered by the hamoitzi. Could be it's mezonos, and you have to say mezonos. You don't know. Savik bracha is lakal. You cannot make a bracha, but if you bench, then you can make a bracha, and then everybody's happy.
I was under the impression that Chabad Dafka says mazonis when they have a dessert during the meal.
Okay, we'll correct that impression. Consider that impression corrected.
So don't do that anymore, you're saying?
No, unless it's defined as pasaba b'kisnin according to all opinions. Now the Alter Rebbe has definitions of pasaba b'kisnin that he says is definitely mezonos. So if it falls into that category, b'vakasha. But if it's only a doubtful pasaba b'kisnin, then not.
So this chocolate cake, then we should not say mazonos on it.
Actually, as I was saying the chocolate cake, I was thinking to myself, I don't know how to make a chocolate cake, but it's possible that there is more sweet additions than the flour. Remember, the Alter Rebbe said yesterday that a Baal Nefesh will not have the cakes made, the breads made with mei peres unless there's more mei peres than flour. Then it's for sure mezainas. So it could be a chocolate cake is vada mezainas. Maybe chamar, maybe that's what you heard. It could be that that there are some cakes that are for sure mezainas if they have more sweet additions than the flour. Then the Alter Rebbe would say it's for sure mezainas. Question?
Another way to get out of the problem of making mazonos in a meal.
Yes.
Or any bracha.
Yes.
Maybe it could be a subject. Saw that you should just make it, or you do a motzi.
Yes, that's an idea. So less than a kazayas. Yeah, that is an idea. I'll mention that right now. That's correct. If you know you're going to have a dessert that is a suffix, hamoiti, suffix mazonos, you could have a bit of mazonos before you wash. And don't have less than a kazayas, so you don't make the after bracha. And that covers you on the mazonos that you're going to have later. Another one, which is not l'chol hadayos, is when you say the hamoitzi, specifically have in mind to cover the mazonos. So those that say that hamoitzi covers mazonos, even if it's supposed to be mazonos for sure, some say hamoitzi covers it, but only if you have in mind. So if you have in mind, it's better.
This is for sure mazonos,
That's a good question. So since not everybody can see, I'm going to take another one out and show it to the members of the class on the computer. I want to show off my wife's work.
Those are chocolate chip cookies.
$4 if you can make it, or I can send it to you. $4 plus shipping and handling.
So it's better to be in the class, guys.
What's the story? Is it?
It is the Rebbitzins cookies.
You know somebody coming to Los Angeles, maybe we can work something out.
Not in the near future, no. Not in the near future. So the question is that for sure mazonos?
No, class.
What's the suffix?
You tell me.
What's the question?
Are these cookies mazonos according to all opinions? If you have these cookies for dessert, do you say mazonos on them? That too. No, for sure you make mazonos on them right now. I'm talking about if you have these cookies for dessert. Do you say mazonos on them because they're for sure mazonos? Or do you say, maybe it's a moitzi, I don't know, maybe it's already covered?
I'd say mazonos because there's probably more flour than the other stuff.
More flour or more other stuff?
Well,
if it's more flour, then it's not for sure mazonos.
More sweet. The ikr is the sweetness of the cookies, and it's mazonos.
Well, I don't know. It depends how much sugar she puts in.
We have to ask the Rebbitzin. Actually, the batter she didn't make, so I don't know. But we have to ask. We have to find out. So that would seem to be the correct answer. In other words, according to Rabbeinu Hananel, I don't know if this is the definition of kisnin. I mean, it has chocolate chips in it, but I don't know if that's enough of a kiss. I don't know if that's enough of a kiss to make it possible to kiss the Rabbeinu Hananel. On the other hand, according to the Rambam, it's for sure mazonos. But in order for it to be for sure mazonos, the Alter Rebbe says would have to have more of the sweet product than the flour. That may or may not be true. That may or may not be true.
So I would not make a mazonos.
I would not. No. My challah is that I don't make mazonos on desserts, unless I'm 100% sure. My assumption is that I don't. During the meal, I'm talking about during the meal. I mean, unless it's a mazonos vada, you know what I'm saying? It's, you don't usually serve porridge for dessert. But if there is such a thing as a for sure mazonos, that's something else. But any doubtful mazonos, I don't make during the meal. Then there's another point here actually, which I didn't say yet. Let me finish the halacha before we finish this up. Here it is. If you eat these breads during the meal, which fill you up, even if it is a bread with a pocket, which Alter Rebbe said, if it has a big pocket, it's considered tafel and it's a bonus. Nevertheless, if you're eating it for satisfaction, you don't have to make any bracha, even on the fruit, because it's secondary to the dough. When you eat mezonos during a meal for satisfaction, even if it's a type of mezonos that is normally eaten as a snack, but if you're eating for satisfaction, it's considered part of the meal. Mr. Burr says the same thing. So therefore, if you say a bracha on dessert that is a vada mezonos, make sure to say it quietly so your hostess or your wife doesn't hear you, because it basically means that you're still hungry. That's the bottom line.
So that's what the laughing on mezonot in the middle of the Seudah, because they're taking this.
If you make a mezonos, it's because it's for sure mezonos and you're not hungry, and you're having it for pleasure. But if either it's a doubtful mezonos, or even if it's a for sure mezonos but you're hungry, and you're eating it for the sake of filling you up, then it's covered by hamoitz. You don't have to make it.
That's what they're doing. Because they want to.
Maybe, could be.
What is the rest of the?
Actually, I saw in the Mezai's Bracha, he does bring this shita of the Alter Rebbe, that a majority of sweet versus the flour is vada mezainos. He brings other poskim that agree with it, but he brings some poskim that don't agree with it. The Matzah, he says, in the Mezai's Bracha, he says, that in order for it to be vada, mamish vada mezainos, it has to be made with a majority fruit juice, filled and dry. For example, wafers. No. Alter Rebbe says if you have so much fruit juice that it's more than the flour, even though there's no kiss and it's not dry, it's vada mezainos. And if the kiss is so much that the bread is eaten for pleasure, it's vada mezainos. Those two things are Alter Rebbe, even though it's not, doesn't fit the other definitions of kiss, that's enough. But he brings that to be yotze mamish everybody, it has to be all three definitions. It has to be made with fruit juice, with a filling, and dry. The example is wafers. Wafers nowadays, they usually make with margarine or other delectable additions. And they have the cream in between each part of it, which the truth is it's not baked. But he says because it's, when you bake it, you're planning to put it in, it's considered baked, whatever. It's a finish. And it's dry. So you can make a mezainos on wafers. Actually, that's another eitzah. I just thought that. If you're having a mezainos, that's a suffix. Put a little wafer on the side. Make mezainos on the wafer. And then you can eat the suffix. Yeah.
It's better not to wait for the end of late and quarter to 10. Maybe you have to text people.
No. Kavua 10. I don't want to change around.
No.
Ten.
10.
Oh, I don't have anybody else to text besides Michael.
It's better not to wait until the last minute. Because
I don't have anybody else. Chanan can't come, and Michael said I'll be there at 10.
Okay, so how many we got so far?
One,
One.
maybe two,
And two.
maybe two.
Okay. So Shia, Tanecha, they pray or did not pray? They want to pray or not?
I don't think so.
So ask him, please. And Michael, we pray?
I don't know.
So Shia, Tanecha, Ubarech, Tatecha, Orem, Venase.
7 or 8. We're missing 2.
So maybe if he has a 2, he's missing 1 only.
Oh, Moshe said he could come if we need him.
Yes.
I daven Marif is like there's just 6 people that already didn't daven
We're
Marif.
trying to figure that out. We're trying to figure that out.
Yes, we have 6.
We have 6?
Yeah, if he didn't write down.
Okay. We'll let you know.
Let me know.
Okay, my friends.
So like 5 or 6 recipes of chocolate chip cookies, all of them have much more other ingredients.
More volume. More volume of other ingredients.
Like 4 cups of sugar, 2 cups of butter, 4 eggs. Whatever, eggs versus 5 cups of
Depends how much you're making.
depends on what
Depends how much you're making.
versus 5 cups of flour. So when you add all the other
When you add the other things, it's more than the flour. So then it's mazonos according to Alter Rebbe for sure.
4 5 recipes.
Then according to Alter Rebbe, it's for sure. So, Aaron, you could be right in practice. I see you dropped off, but you could be right in practice in many of the cakes that are majority sweet things more than the flour. Okay, I just want to bring up another interesting question.
Oh, just to review one thing here. So this bread, which is made from milk or fruits, we don't say a bracha on them for dessert, but they are covered by the Birkat Hamazon.
Correct.
Okay.
They're for sure covered by benching. Anything you eat after Hamoitzi is covered by benching.
Okay, whether you make a blessing. Okay, yeah, got it.
Whether you make a bracha before on it or not.
Okay.
It's covered with benching. The truth is, in the olden days, it used to be different, and maybe we'll get to that when we get to it. But nowadays, that's the way it is.
Okay.
Why, except for water?
Well, if you didn't make kiddush, it's during the week.
Yeah.
You make a motzah, then you drink wine. Don't have to make a bracha on the
Wine. I thought you said water. I'm talking about the after bracha. I'm talking about after bracha. Wine, you have to make it before bracha too. That's true. I'm talking about benching. You're covered by benching. Okay, I want to talk about something, even though I don't have a resolution for it, just because it's cute. It's a cute question. Okay, so you're at the Kiddush, and you look around, you said Kiddush, and you look around to have some mazonos. Okay, so your first stop is a rugala. You think to yourself, I learned Seder Birkos HaNehenin. We know rogalach is mazonos, even though it's a kiss. Even though not everybody agrees, but as a pocket, this rogala is made with bread dough. I happen to know challah dough, but it has a lot of chocolate in between each roll. It's a kiss. It's a kiss. Make mazonos. I'm happy. I go to the next table, and I see chocolate cake. Okay, there's no kiss. But the Rambam says it's made with other liquids. Mazonos, I'm happy.
What's the second one?
Chocolate cake. I get to the third table, and there's some crackers to eat with my herring. So I think to myself, Rav Hai going, mazonos, I'm happy. Holy Kiddush. But then I think to myself something else. How can I be covering all of these things with mazonos when one of them has to be Hamoitzi? They can't all be mazonos. Rambam says I'm right. Rav Hai Gaon says I'm right. Rabbi Chananel says I'm right.
2 out of 3.
Even 2 out of 3 is a shayla. Even 2 out of 3 is a shayla.
What do you mean one of them cannot be mazonos?
But there's only one Pasabah B'Kisnin. Will the real Pasabah B'Kisnin please stand up? So they're all going to stand up, but it's only one of them is real. It's a machlokes. Now the truth is, full disclosure, is that there is an opinion, I think it's the Maimon Mordechai, there is an opinion that says, they don't really argue. It's just different definitions. Each one was giving his definition. But the fact is, all of these breads are not eaten in a way of
Meaning they would each agree with each other?
they would each agree with each other.
Who says that?
I think the Maimon Mordechai. Maimon Mordechai. It's an early Achron. Anyway, so but you see from the Alter Rebbe and the Mishnah Berurah, they both bring down this halacha about dessert. They don't agree with that. Because if this would be true, then every one of them is for sure mazonos. And if you eat it for dessert, say mazonos for sure.
The fact is, they said, no, it's maybe hamoitzi. Even today, it might be hamoitzi. And therefore, you cannot say mazonis for dessert because it could be covered for hamoitzi. So they clearly hold that not all of the opinions agree with each other. I'm just going to leave it with the question because...
But also, if you eat so much mazonos, you're going to get full. So wouldn't that push you over the...
That's another problem. That's another problem. For argument's sake, we're going to talk about a person who has extreme self-control, and he had one ragala and one square of cake and one cracker. That's it.
You actually, you're getting me I have to concern now because at my shul they have all these kiddush clubs, and which they meet, after the Torah reading.
Yeah.
And you have all the, so you could really run into this problem.
Yep. You run into other problems, but what can I say?
Yeah, that's true.
That's just to have a Suda, no? 3 grams or 4 grams of mazonos for
Musaf.
almost.
Hopefully they know the halacha. Hopefully they know the halacha that you're supposed to hear the haftarah too, not just the kriyas hatayra. And so on and so forth. And also that.
How much do you have to drink to not be able to pronounce it?
It's complicated, but the Maisa nowadays, it just goes away.
Okay, so what if you say the haftarah to yourself, or do you have to hear it from the Baal Korah?
No, you have to hear it.
Yeah.
So
you have to hear it from the one who says the brachas. In other words, what you're saying.
Of course. Just like kriyas hatayra. Otherwise, you can read the kriyas hatayra to yourself too.
I've never seen a kiddush.
Baruch Hashem.
Maybe they're so secretive.
Baruch Hashem. Much better that way. Okay. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's shuls where the
is that what it is? But that's why the Sarah before the Rav speaks. That's why it's after Kriyas Torah before Matzah.
I don't know when it is.
We're ignorant of the halachas. That's what
I wasn't going to say ignorant. I was going to say it's shuls where the congregation basically overrides the rabbi, because I can't imagine any rabbi that goes along with it. It's shuls where the congregation basically does what they want to do. Unfortunately, that's what it seems to me. Whether it's Chabad, not Chabad, I'm not making differences between Chabad and not Chabad, because unfortunately it happens in both. But it's a problem for many reasons. Okay.
Like usually it's done in a private area, like we try to hide it.
Yeah. It's like in a back room.
Yeah, exactly.
Stairway. I'm saying a little closet, like the AC room.
And the back in the sukkah. It's called
Yeah. What can I say?
Skip the rabbi's drasha, is that the idea? How much time do you have?
No.
By us, if you start something after Kriyas Torah, we start within 5 minutes.
Or they do it during the Haftarah, which is even better.
I don't know what the reason is. People know Sitzfleisch. In Yiddish, it's called Sitzfleisch. People don't want to sit for too long, so they're looking for something to do, and somebody came up with this idea. I don't want to make any excuses for it because it's not right. Okay, let's go. Yud Aleph. V'chein mina isa sheblilos raka v'nitagnu b'mashke. So too, any doughs that have a thin consistency. And here is another mezonos vadai. Listen carefully. What were we talking about before? Talking about making a mezonos for dessert. So we said only a mezonos vadai. Here we're going to come up with another mezonos vadai. Listen carefully. A thin consistency, and it's fried. Nitagnu b'mashke. Fried in liquid. If it is covered. Oh, sorry. No. He's saying you don't have to make mazonos. It's covered by the bread if you eat it for satisfaction. They're like every other mazonos dish is. But if you eat it for pleasure or dessert, you have to make a bracha like lachmanias. Okay, if you're eating a something that was fried, a thin batter. Blintzes, for example. Blintzes are fried, thin batter. If you're eating it not during the meal, make mazonos and alamicha. Even if you're full. Even if you eat enough that other people would eat it for a meal, 4 eggs, 6 eggs, all the opinion. And that was your meal, Taka. You sat down for lunch and you had 10 blintzes and you're full. And that's an amount that people would make a meal out of. Why? Because it was a thin dough, and then it was fried. Everybody agrees it does not have a teres lechem. Now, the fact that it has a small amount of oil, just so the pan should not burn, that is not called frying. That's called baking. Again, if you have no oil in the pan, a non-stick pan or a griddle, or you have a very small amount of oil just so it shouldn't stick, that is not considered frying, that's considered baking. Now, the fact is a thin dough that's baked thin is mezonos, but if you eat a lot of it, we said it could be hamoitzi, that's a machloikas, so then it's not so simple. But if it is fried, not just with a tiny amount of oil, but if it's fried like regular stuff is fried, then it's for sure mezonos. Neither do I. What's an air fryer? I heard of a hair dryer, but never an air fryer.
Not a hair fryer.
It's like a machine that like they have like they usually cook fries with it, so you avoid using oil.
But how is it different than a regular non-stick pan? Well, what does that mean?
And so it's like a little oven, fries by.
Oh,
It's a mini oven. It's a mini oven. It's the same.
It's like a convection oven.
I see. So that there's no liquid there. That's not frying.
Not frying.
There is oil in it?
No, by definition, it's not frying.
Does it use oil or not?
There's no oil in it. They don't use any oil in the air fryer.
If it's just a small amount, it's not going to change it from being baked.
You might coat the food in oil, but it's not being cooked in oil.
This is exactly what Alder was
Okay,
discussing.
not just a
Yeah. Pancake, same thing.
They put it like
Pancake,
honey.
no matter how
Pancake
much you
on-
eat, is always going to be mezainis. Can't be a mitzvah. Yeah. Yud beis. Aval isa shebelosa ava kisas lechem gomes kagos biyadai. Betigna b'machvas b'shem neshamash k'meshumah. Okay, now we come to the sugya of frying, my friends. Before we learn it, I'm going to tell you the introduction in brief. When something is cooked, when a dough is cooked in a lot of liquid, for example, if you were to take a dough and deep fry it, for example, donuts, sufganiyot for Hanukkah, that is considered mezonos vadai because it's considered cooked. Cooked dough is mezonos.
And kreplach?
1 second. The truth is that I'm not telling you all the opinions because the Taz holds that it's hamoitzi. Taz holds once it's a thick consistency, it is hamoitzi, even if you fried. Okay, but the Alter Rebbe doesn't bring down the Taz. It seems that he holds you don't even have to be choshish for the shita of the Taz. But he is out there just for your information. Okay, so that is one case, deep frying. Then on the opposite extreme, we have the case of no liquid, like a non-stick pan, or a very small amount of liquid, which is considered like baking. And if you bake something with a thick consistency, it's bread, of course. But now, if you have a fair amount of oil, not just a tiny amount that shouldn't fry, but not deep fried either, fair amount of oil, that is a machloikis rishonim, if it's considered cooked or baked. And this machloikis has many nafkaminas. It has many branches that apply in halacha. So here we're learning about, what's hamoitzi, what's mezainis. But it has relevance also for separating challah. It has relevance for kashering, for example, because it's very complicated to kasher something that where you bake. A baking pan is very complicated to kasher. A cooking pot is very simple to kasher. So that's a question about a frying pan. Is it like a baking pan or is it like a pot? Machlokes, same machlokes. So here we go. Yes.
Margarine would be also like oil.
Yeah. Margarine, butter, fat, schmaltz, all like oil. Or water for that matter. I'm saying that the small amount of water. I'm saying that, not a cooking in water is one thing. We just put a small layer. Like some people they don't like using oil on Pesach. My wife, for example, she doesn't use oil on Pesach. So the eggs she makes with water doesn't taste very good, but whatever. So I'm saying it's a small amount of water, same issue.
Steam cooking.
How does that work?
It's an oven that it's connected to the wire.
Steams.
It's like
Interesting.
baking, but it's steaming.
Right.
It's
Interesting, Shaila.
Never seen it.
Does it do it for bread or just to use it for bread or just for like meat and stuff?
for vegetable.
All right.
Also fish.
All right. I don't know.
It makes it more.
Moist. Right. But you probably don't use it for bread because you don't want the bread to be moist. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Okay, here goes. Yesh ayim shenatigun machvas moitziim tes lechem gamor. Hayul mashkesh machvas udavar mut. Va'isa isa blila sa avet chila. Right, so kilu nefetz betana baruch ala moitzi birkos muslim kazayis. First opinion says that being fried in a frying pan does not take it out of being lechem gamor. Because when you fry, there's not so much liquid. And we are talking about a blila ava, we're talking about a thick dough. So therefore, it is hamoitzi. It's the same as if it's baked in an oven. And you would make hamoitzi and benching if you had a kazayis.
French toast.
French toast is bread and then you fry. We're going to learn about that soon. First, we're learning about frying dough. If you make, what are they called? Donuts on Hanukkah, and you don't deep fry it, you fry it in a pan, that is a machlokes. First opinion says it's a moitzi, because frying is like baking. And the second opinion, we say right now, some say no, it's the same as cooking, which we're going to discuss in a minute what cooking is, and therefore the brachas mezainis rechein ikar. That's the main halach. Okay. I'll skip the parentheses for a minute. I'll go back to it in a second. If you're going to fry the sufganiyot on Hanukkah, and you're going to eat enough of them to be satisfied, then it's a sfeika d'oraisa. Because if it's a moitzi, you have to bench. So you can't say, well, it's enough to say ala michya. Main halacha is ala michya. Okay, main halacha is enough, but there's an opinion that says that it's benching, and you're satisfied. You have a chiv d'oraisa at the bench, but on the other hand, you can't bench because the main halacha is that it's not benching. So you have to have it during a meal. So now the Alter Rebbe answers an important question here in the parentheses. What do you mean it's a suffix d'oraisa at the bench? Why can I say ala michya? Ala michya covers me for the chiv d'oraisa of benching. It mentions all the important aspects of benching. Now the truth is that the number of brachas that we say is midrabbanan. Listen to this chiddush. We have sometimes in the Gemara, we have the concept that divrei Kabbalah are sometimes as strict as divrei Torah. we treat them like divrei Torah. Things that come from the Nevi'im and Ksuvim, even though they're not in the Chamish Chomshei Torah, not mamish b'daraisa, but they're part of the written Torah, so we give them extra strictness. So here the Alter Rebbe uses that.
What is that acronym? What is that acronym there? Mem Resh Ayin Hey. Shemaraha or something.
Oh, Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Shalom. I'm using a different version of the Seder than you are, so I was trying to figure out what you're talking about. Well, which one do you have? The white one, the new one?
No, I have the printout from the Chabad.org.
Oh, you mean the Hebrew? The Hebrew.
No, it's the same. It's the printout that they have in the Chabad.org is the new print of the white book of the Shulchan Aruch.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't find it on Chabad.org. Can you send me a link to that?
Oh.
It has
Sure.
English on it? It has English on it?
No.
I don't know if it's English
No,
in
just
it.
Hebrew.
The Birkos, I think it has it in Hebrew only.
Okay, so then it's not the white book. The white book has
No?
English. But I sent you a document that has this chapter in it.
I know.
No problem. You don't
Thank
have
you.
to.
I'll start using that.
Yeah, no, you don't have to. I'm just
Okay.
saying. Okay, it stands for Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Shalom. Here the Alter Rebbe comes up with a chiddush here. The fact is that Moshe Rabbeinu himself made the first bracha of benching. Hazanas Olam. Hazanas Olam. Moshe Rabbeinu tiken birkat Hazan. Yoshua tiken birkat Haaretz. And David and Shlomo tiknu Bonei Yerushalayim. So since Moshe Rabbeinu made it, it has a din of a daraisa. It's not a daraisa, but it has the chumrah of a daraisa. So therefore, you have to worry about even the minority opinion and find a piece of bread and wash and bench on it.
That's why.
Kriyas HaTorah every 3 days. 3 days, every 3 days to read from the Torah, Monday, Thursday, Shabbos. Right.
Also,
Shar brachas, right? Maybe Avelis also, they make Shiva. They make, yeah, so I don't know.
What's the reason?
I don't know.
Ask God.
Did he ask?
An opportunity. We didn't.
No, he didn't ask. If he would have asked and Hashem would have said yes, then it would be deraisa. He didn't ask. He was Masaka, he made a takana. He was a chacham. The chacham can make a takana. He made a takana. Sorry?
What would we have? We would just say thank you.
For what? No, we would have had to say a bracha that included all the concepts of Hazan and Aretz and Yerushalayim, because that's alluded to in the pasuk. Eretz, Toiva, Achato Zota Verachta LaAretz HaToiva. So that includes them. But it didn't have to be a separate bracha. He made a separate bracha just for Hazan. Yeshua made a separate bracha just for Aretz.
We didn't know Yeshua was going to make that bracha.
It had to be made, but it wasn't officially made to Yeshua. But people would have had to say it in their own words. Exactly. If not for his bracha, they would have said everything together in their own words. And then if not for Yeshua's bracha, they would have included those two in their own words. Now for the other shleimers, they would have included it in their own words. They made a bracha out of it. You know what I'm saying?
The second two are more Rabbanan.
I mean, the first is also Rabbanan, but it has a chumrah of a deraisa. It's treated.
Say a person just said, first bracha of Birkos and then he fell asleep.
No, but without mentioning the Eretz and Yerushalayim, you're not yotzim deraisa. If you didn't use the exact language, I don't know. But, I don't know.
This is probably an answer for you. Some they pray on Shabbat with the Birkat Hamazon all the way before Ar-Haman, and they stop before Ar-Haman.
Why?
Because this is for too much bakashot and
I want to ask you
Shabbat.
things on Shabbat.
I see. Interesting.
Ashkenaz, Ashkenaz.
Interesting. Okay. Very good.
They allowed to do that?
After Mikol Tulo Lo Mechasrenu Zeminhag Zelo Lo Ma'akev.
Oh.
Okay.
So that's why Poalim also they stop over there?
Po'alim in those times could stop even after Bnei Yerushalayim. In those days. Nowadays they have to say the Bracha Reviyit also. Okay, we continue. We're on Yud Beis. Up to Afiluhim Mulaz, even if it's filled. So we're talking about a bread that is fried, and he's eating enough of it to be satisfied. He's saying you have to wash on another piece of bread. Even if this bread is filled, if the filling is a filling, for example, cheese or meat, and so on. So all of those stay in the suffix of Hamoitzi. But if you're only eating the fried food without any other bread, you can make Hamoitzi and benching on it alone. Rather, Zionist and Mein Shalish. This is all about frying. If a dough was cooked in a oven, in a pot, boiled bagels are boiled. Let's say instead of taking out the boiled bagel and baking it in the oven, you were hungry and you want to eat the boiled bagel, pre-baked, just boiled. That is absolutely not bread. You eat, no matter how much you want, it's always mezonos, always ala michya. Even if you eat enough for a suda. Even if they are big pieces like knedlach or kreplach. Here's an example. Knedlach usually are made with eggs and oil, whatever. But kreplach, here's a good example. Kreplach are made with a regular dough, right? It's not a sweet dough. It's a regular dough. And you fill it with meat, and you cook it. For some people fry it, okay, that's something else. But you cook it in chicken soup or in water. So that's a hard dough, right? Hard, I mean, it's not a loose dough. It's a regular consistency dough. And the filling is not a sweet filling, but it's cooked. That is vada mezonos. No matter how much you eat, that is going to be mezonos forever.
And these are those figures that say mezonos forever.
I mean, these are usually middle meal foods. Kreplach is a filling food. It's not a dessert food. So it wouldn't be shach, the same as mezonos.
Two conditions.
It is a vada mezonos, but it's not.
Didn't all the anything about it mezonos?
No, only if you're eating it l'tainug or l'kinuach.
That's everyone?
Yeah. If you're eating it for svia, it's included in Hamoitzi. The Mishnah Berurah says that also. Okay.
What does kinuach mean? What does kinuach mean?
Kinuach means dessert. I mean, literally, kinuach means like to wipe, but it's an expression, like at the end of the meal, just to wipe your palate, just to give you a nice dessert feeling. I'm sorry?
Is there anyone who holds that all three conditions, when they're fulfilled, are still something that we should make mezonos?
I don't think so. You know what? Now that you're saying that, I think of Yashiv. He quotes over Yashiv, something to that extent. If anybody says that you just don't make Zionist at all on all these things. Yeah, Well, Yashiv says basically all of these things are he considers them all a suffix. He's not convinced that any of them are Vadim Zonis. But it's mashma, if you could convince him, he would be masking. But he's not convinced that they're Vadim Zonis. For each one for different reasons, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't believe there's such a thing that a Vadim Zonis. Saying, for example, the wafer, he says, well, you didn't bake the cream in between it. You only added it later, so maybe it's not a kiss. You know what I'm saying? He argues on all of the different ways. He says there's always a way around it to say that it might be Hamotzi. Okay. Anyway, we continue and we say, sorry. Achem chazer afal betanor, or even machmas bli mashka. Chazer v'yorolav teres lechem gamar afilu in chatiches ktanas because I saw cholam hamoitzi v'lasmos because I asked my friend, listen carefully. You took the boiled bagel out of the vat of boiling, and you put it into the oven like they do with bagels. At that point, it becomes hamoitzi. Yeshafia achar bishul, my friends. Now is where we tie in Hilchas Birkos HaNehenin to Hilchas Shabbos. Yeshafia achar bishul. After you cook, you could bake it, and that changes it from being cooked to being baked. And now it's a moitzi.
The practical thing on Shabbos they would have to be scared of. Something that's usually cut and then you want to put on the pot or something.
Exactly. Something was.
What would you?
I mean, schnitzel. Schnitzel is a question. Schnitzel is fried. Most opinions hold that frying is like cooking. And now you're going to heat it up without any liquid. Maybe it's a shailov, afiyach or bishal. The Matzah, the Chazon Ish says that afiyach or bishal is only a problem if you can taste it. If it tastes different as a result of the afiyah. Exactly. So the Matzah, when you make a bagel, after you boil it, it's totally different. I mean, it's a different thing. But warming it doesn't really change it.
Anything else?
I mean, Lemaisa, the way we warm things up on top of a pot, it doesn't really change the taste. If there would be something that would change the taste, then yeah, it would be a shame. If it changes the taste, I don't know. Anything that would change the taste, then it would be an issue. Okay, so listen carefully, my friends. The feast for Hashem shatikim lemad mashka dinik hafiyah. If you took it out of a pot that it was cooked in, and then you fried it, well, those that say that frying is like baking, you just baked it, and it becomes bread. Some people, I don't know if people do this today, but they used to first cook the kreplach and then fry them. Whether you fry it in a pan or in a pot makes no difference. If it's a small amount of oil on the bottom, it's fried. So that once it's fried, if you're going to have enough to satisfy you, it's a question, and you should only have it during a meal, because otherwise there'll be a doubt about the bracha achrayna. Anything fried. So we're going to see soon that if you boil a hamoitzi, then it could become a zonus, maybe not, depending on the size. Depends on the size. Now, if you put into the pot where you're frying it a lot of cream, so that's like cooking. This is basically deep frying. If you deep fry it, it's the same as cooking. So if you did it in a pan with a lot of butter, it's the same as water. Even though you took out the butter afterwards, but if when you cooked it, it had a lot of butter or a lot of cream or a lot of oil, it's considered deep fried, which is the same as cooking. What's the prognosis? What's
That's
that?
what I'm looking at. I have one for sure. Maybe he's bringing the ones from George. I think he said yesterday specifically. He's like, no.
Okay, Rabbeinu Moshe, if you could come for 10 o'clock, that would be a mitzvah. As of now, you're number 9, but we're working on number 10.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay, Yud Gimel, here we go. Now we come to the sugya of French toast and matzah brei and all those exciting things. So here's what it is, my friends. I'm going to give you a little intro before we do Yud Gimel. When you take bread and you cook it, there is something called Teresa Dinamo. Cook it in a pot. Yeah. Something called Teresa Dinamo, which is Aramaic for Tzura Sapas, the form of bread.
Rabbi, my mom, she used to take egg and they put the prosa and then they cook it.
French toast.
What's called was the mizanot?
We call it French toast. We're learning about it right now.
Okay.
So here's the halach. When you cook it and it's less than a kazayas, it loses the tzura sapas. It loses the form of bread. If you cook it and it's more than a kazayas, it keeps the form of bread. Now, that is the halacha in the Gemara. However, there is a machlokes rishonim about this concept of more or less than a kazayas. Most rishonim hold, and this is what Alter Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch, and this is what the Mishnah Berurah says, and so on, is that if you break a piece of bread to small pieces, each piece less than a kazayas, and you cook it, that's it. It lost its tzura sapas. It is now mazonos. However, some say that the pshat in the Gemara is that you cook it until it breaks up into pieces that are smaller than a kazayas. Not that you break it up and you put it into the pot for 5 minutes. No, you have to put it into the pot in such a way that the cooking breaks it up to less than a kazayas. So that's a whole nother story. And the Alter Rebbe in the Seder Birkos HaNehenin is choshesh for that shita of Rishonim. And he brings both opinions down.
I remember long time ago, he used to take a small pieces of bread and cook it and mix it with some.
So if you cook a small piece of bread, according to most Rishonim, that will be mazonos. Some Rishonim will say, no, it's still a moitzi unless you cook it so much that it breaks up in the pot. Now, combined with this machlokes about whether the bread has to break up from the cooking or you can break it up, we have to bear in mind the other machlokes, whether frying is like cooking or like baking. So in other words, even if you say that when you take a piece that's broken, that you break up to less than a kazayas, cooking could make it mazonos, let's say, but frying, which maybe is not cooking, maybe it is, but maybe it's not, maybe it's still baking. So that's not maybe able to take it out of the category of hamoitzi, because maybe that's also baking. You understand what I'm saying?
Whatever you put it on.
If you put breadcrumbs on schnitzel, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But mostly saying maybe schnitzel should be hamoitzi.
That's what you say.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Now what do you guys say? Maybe schnitzel should be hamoitzi. Breadcrumbs, according to some Rishonim, that didn't break up as a result of the cooking. You broke them up. So even if you cook them, they still are hamoitzi. And here maybe you didn't even cook them. You fried them. Frying maybe is baking. So it should be hamoitzi.
And
Matzah meal, same thing. Matzah meal is, according to Ashkenazim, is a motzi. If you want to eat matzah meal, it's a motzi. So now that you made it into a batter and you put it on schnitzel, since when does it become
even better,
mazonos? Why shouldn't it be a motzi?
even better, and Thanksgiving they fill it up, that bread.
That's another shayla. So we're going to learn about
Pieces, the crumb, right?
We're going to learn about it.
Fried bread. Stays in motzi.
If you fry bread and it's more than a kazayas, it for sure stays a motzi.
Less than kazayas.
It's less than a kazayas, it's a machlokes. There's two factors. There's the factor that the Alter Rebbe brings, which the other Acharim don't really bring, but the Alter brings, that some Rishonim say that in order to be Mazonos, it has to break up through the cooking. You're breaking it up is not enough. And according to some Rishonim, frying is like baking. So how is baking going to make it lose its status of hamotzi? You understand? It's going to be a machlokes. The kitzur, it's going to be a machlokes. If you fry matzah brei of pieces of matzah, I mean, it's trying to make mazonos anyway, so it's not an issue. But even for trying on Pesach, for example, make matzah brei on Pesach. If you have pieces, all of them are smaller than a kazayas, you're going to have a doubt about that matzah brei. The only way to not have a doubt is to leave one piece bigger than a kazayas and make a motzi. Okay, let's learn it inside. You have two, excellent. You have a minyan. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, but one not bread.
Michal and Moshe are going to come, and your two is 10.
We need one not bread.
Michal didn't have.
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, v'chol zeh v'isa shenizbash la kodem afiyasa. All of the above is a dough that was cooked before it's baked. Avol lechem afui shenizbash la b'kadeira, baked bread that was cooked in a pot. Ein abishal motzim es lechem gamor, cooking it does not take it out of the category of bread. Then in bracha, as far as the bracha, so the bracha motzim not to make a motzim because most of them kazayis are benching, and I'm ken nimcha lechem. The bishal shlen nisha b'prusa kazayis bucha lechem. Unless the first opinion he brings holds, unless the cooking itself broke it up into pieces less than a kazayis. He called prusa shnisha b'kazayis that is b'at adam tes lechem in bracha. Any piece that still has a kazayis has not lost its status of bread. Even if it doesn't look like bread, if it has a kazayis, it is still bread. And the neshba kazayis is batal tes lechem gamri. If it broke up into less than a kazayis, it is no longer bread. Even if it looks like bread, we don't consider it bread. And it's going to be mazonos and HaNehenin. Even if you eat a meal out of such pieces, once they break up into less than a kazayis through cooking, they are for sure mazonos. Some say even if they did not break up in the cooking. Rather, you yourself broke it up into many pieces before you cooked it. For example, what we do with matzah on Pesach, when we make matzah brei and all kinds of other things. I mean, those that don't keep gebracht or whatever. Even if it does not look like, even if it looks like bread, it's not considered bread if you broke it up less than a kazayis. Here's another chiddush. Even if it stuck together and became a kazayis, very practical example. You took matzah meal and you made it into a knedel, into a matzah ball. And the matzah ball is bigger than a kazayis. And it's made out of matzah, which is basically bread, and now it's bigger than a kazayis. So what if it's cooked? If it's cooked, but it's bigger than a kazayis, it's a motzi. No. That's if it's cooked and it's bigger than a kazayis, and the kazayis was from the original bread. If it's a kazayis of little pieces that's now stuck together, the kazayis, and it's cooked, that's mazonos. The suffix brachas.
Oh, so this matzah brei is mazonos then, if you broke up the matzah.
We didn't get to that yet. I said matzah balls. Matzah balls are cooked. Matzah balls are cooked, not fried. So therefore, they're for sure mazonos. First of all, they are mazonos because they are broken up into small pieces. Second of all, because they merge and fuse into one piece, it completely lost its shape, even according to the first opinion. Because the cooking, it loses shape.
Because it's boiled.
After you shred it, you then make it into a thing, and it completely dissolves. So it looks like one piece. You don't see anything.
You don't see any matzah.
Exactly.
It's all matzah meal.
Exactly. No, you don't even see the matzah meal. Once you get the knedel, it looks like a different thing. Kol makom, nevertheless, listen carefully. Kol bal nefesh yachal las v'shlo lechem kedei svia yeshalem ter lechem. A bal nefesh will not eat enough to be satisfied if it has ter lechem. Meaning to say, if according to the first opinion, it's still bread because it didn't break up in the cooking. So you broke it up, but it still has pieces that look like bread. You'll make a hamotzi and kazayas of regular bread first. When it comes to frying, you should for sure be machmer, not just a bal nefesh, and not just kedei svia. Shomea? Alter Rebbe says, if you want to have matzah brei, if it's bigger than a kazayas, you must be strict. You must wash on an actual piece of matzah or challah or whatever bigger than a kazayas.
What does batigun mean?
Batigun means with drying, with frying.
Frying.
Every piece, each piece being less than a kazayas is enough to make it mazonos according to some opinions, but not according to other opinions unless the cooking breaks it up. An additional factor is that frying might be baking, not cooking. So now you have two reasons why this matzah brei might actually be hamotzi. So the Alter Rebbe says, Yesh la'achmin b'cholin, you should not eat it without making hamotzi and something else. The simple thing is to leave one piece of matzah in the matzah brei that is bigger than a kazayas, and then everybody agrees you can say hamotzi on it, and that's what you do. In the Sefer V'zois HaBracha, he says, if you want to make mazonos and matzah brei, you don't want to make hamotzi. So he says simply to soak the matzah to such an extent that it completely disintegrates. Then it loses its source of pas anyway, which Alter was going to say in a minute. So that's another way out of it.
According to Rabbi Tarelli, opinion from Rabbi Mabel, it says that you have to eat brachimai you have to eat it on a meal of hamotzi.
No, I'm not going to agree with that 100%. I'm going to say if the pieces are smaller than a kazayas, you have to eat it with hamotzi. If the pieces are bigger than a kazayas, it is hamotzi. If the pieces of matzah are bigger than, I'm saying it's hamotzi. You don't have to eat it with hamotzi. It is hamotzi. I'm just saying he's not wrong, but that little detail is missing. Okay, I want to continue with Yudalit. V'chol zekeshen es bashal b'kli rishon, my friends. This is only if you cooked it in a kli rishon. Our kli sheni is mavashal. Kli sheni is not mavashal. We're not worried about the Yereim here. We're not worried about those of you that learned Hilchos Shabbos. We learned the Yereim says kli sheni is mavashal. Some things maybe we don't know. As far as brachas is concerned, kli sheni does not cook. If you put pieces of bread, even less than a kazayas, the kli sheni, you still make a motzi. And afterwards, benching. Now, if you soak it in a kli sheni, or even in a cold liquid, to the extent that they disintegrate and they lose their form of bread, well, then that's mazonos anyway. Now, v'ira mikli rishon who suffik and didn't kli rishon and kli sheni. Ira mikli rishon is a suffik if it's like a kli rishon or kli sheni, because those of you that learned Hilchos Shabbos and those of you that learned Hilchos Basa b'chalav Anybody? Well, remember that some say ir meklirishin is mavashal kadei klipa. That's right in town. Some say it's not. It's just maflet and a mavliya. It exchanges flavors, but it doesn't actually cook. So that's a machlokes. So if you have crumbs, less than a kazayas, that you poured from a klirishin onto them, or you have a suffix, if it loses the suras alechem or not. If that's cooking, it lost it. If not, it didn't lose it. Therefore, you should only eat it only during a meal. If they still look like bread. However, if they stayed in the liquid to the extent that they started to disintegrate, so then they lose their status of bread completely. Even pieces less than a kazayas that stayed in cold water for a long time. And they disintegrated a little bit until they don't look like bread. When in Kippur, they look like dough, or you make mazonos and alamechia. I feel like even if you had enough to have a meal. If the water has become white from the disintegrated particles of the bread, it is already considered to have lost its status as bread.
That's
sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking like this is like French onion soup where you it's a lot of cheese but there's a piece of bread in there, but the bread is so soaked. I mean, it's
soaked it has to disintegrate. It has to start to disintegrate.
So in other words, so even if it's a soaked piece of bread, but it still has its source apas.
Exactly. If it's,
okay.
If it's in a bowl of soup, which is a klisheni, that's not cooking. So even if it's less than a kazayis, it's still a motzi, unless it literally disintegrates.
Okay.
Kibbutz Rav, I have a question. I don't know if you answered this question. I asked you this last night regarding bread pudding.
I'm going to get the bread pudding. I'm not up to there yet. Yes, go ahead. We'll get to it. Don't worry. Hopefully before your next serving of bread pudding, we'll get to it. Yes. Okay. So then that's already, but it's the oven. The bread is on top, no? Or is it in already? If it's in, then it depends. If it's bigger than a kazayis, it's still a moitzi. If it's less, then it's mazonos according to most opinions. But if it disintegrates, then
disintegrate by itself, or you can just
no, it means by itself.
No,
that doesn't help. I mean, it might taste better. It's not going to change the bracha. So too, pieces of bread that were dried in the oven, called in Yiddish pence, and then soaked in cold beer. That was a thing in those days. Okay, so those are also considered mazonos because they would disintegrate. Now here comes an important din. Crumbs of bread that are on their own, not mixed in. Afilu pir dak kemach, even a crumb that is thin like a piece of flour. It doesn't look like bread because it's so small. So what? It is an actual piece of bread. You can't tell because it's a little piece, but it is a piece of bread. And the correct bracha is hamoitzi. You want to eat one crumb of matzah meal? That's hamoitzi. Because it's actual bread. Nothing changed about it. Just cut up very small.
Also, if it's not kazayis.
Correct.
I think I'm understanding is that something that's microscopic is already out there.
Microscopic is no bracha.
So at one point people have different position with the fish.
Average person. Average person can see it. It exists. Okay, with 3 minutes, I'm going to try to rush through Tes Vav. This is going to relate to bread pudding. Im Bal Yedei Zeh Nimoich Uktzas V'Nasu Kisei Lehem Teres Lachem Afro V'Oich Boim Nem Zenes Vein Shal Shalom Echshem Tchila Hekazais B'Chol Pir Levad. Lachem Ashnagam Pesach Lichter Shamatzis Leperin Dakim Yoyed V'Choyz V'Nogim V'Nesim B'Mayim Chamen. No, I'm sorry. I'm going too fast, and I'm not going to be able to cover it properly. All right, my friends. Here's I'll just give you some other information. We're going to save Tezvav for tomorrow or for next week, excuse me. But let me just look over the notes that I shared with you and see if there's anything I forgot to mention. Yes, going back to pizza, I wanted to mention that the Mishnah Berurah brings another opinion. If you remember, the Taz says that the kisnin can be, even if it's a cheese filling, can also be kisnin. So we said the main halach is not like the Taz. The Mishnah Berurah brings an opinion that's a compromise between the Taz and other poskim. And he says that even if it's a cheese filling, if it's made as a snack food, it's mezainis. If it's made as a filling food, it's hamoitzi. So therefore they say like a cheese bureka, according to that opinion, would be shakal, but pizza would be hamoitzi because pizza is a meal. A bureka is a snack. It's like a little compromise between the Taz and other opinions. Bureka is mezainis. Pizza would be hamoitzi. Talking about even if they're made with flour and water, but according to this opinion, it would be mezainis simply because it's made as a snack food as opposed to pizza. Anyway, to make mezainis on pizza made with fruit juice is not so simple. This is from the Sefer V'Zeis HaBracha, because he says that first of all, you have to be able to taste the difference. Second of all, some say that if it's a food that is made for a meal food, it's still considered hamoitzi, and pizza is usually made for a meal. And then, of course, there's the question of how much you eat. And there's also a question of what you eat it with. And if you're full, it could be that it's going to be hamoitzi anyway. Shkoyach. Thank you very much. Okay, my friends, we're going to call it.
I just came in there. Do you need a minion still, or do you have enough?
We have a super minion, not 2, not 4, not 6, not 8, not 10, not 11. Thank you very much. And with Michal is still on the way. Michael is on the way. We have a super minion. You're off the hook.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right. Good night, everybody. Mirz Hashem. See you next week.
Amen.
Happy Lag BaOmer, everybody.